Deemed as the most notorious rescue that never took place, after a disastrous attempt, what happened to Amy's baking company will leave you in shock.
Someone comes to attack us, we're like snakes. You don't mess with a snake in the desert and go poke it.
There's no way you could forget Amy.
They're used to eating processed wood chips or used to getting things for free.
The self-proclaimed Wonder Woman and greatest chef of all time, Amy Buzaglo, co-owned the infamous Amy's Baking Company with her husband Sammy. Of course, both owners were deluded, but Amy was insane. Have you ever come across a restaurant owner who could speak, well, feline? Amy was completely crazy and an absolute menace to society. This couple might lead you to believe that they left the United States seeking greener pastures elsewhere. But that's far from the truth. Did they really think they could simply walk away after throwing several false accusations at Chef Ramsay? This video is going to be an eye-opener for most of you, since the Buzaglos never really left the country of their own accord. They were actually deported. I suggest that you stick around till the end because this video is going to be a ride. It's not going to be the usual summary of the episode, but rather an interesting take on what happened after Chef Ramsay's biggest failure yet. Let's start with some real secret information. And trust me, this is way more disturbing than you would ever imagine. When I ran a background search on this pompous and overbearing couple, some really ghastly facts surfaced. According to a Reddit user, Amy isn't even Amy. How about that? Forget about her personality, her very identity was skewed. It looks like the secret's out. Amy's original name apparently is Amanda. But here comes an even bigger secret. This loud and self-opinionated woman was once convicted of a felony. News is, back in 2003, Amanda pleaded guilty to the misuse of a social security number after she tried to apply for a $15,000 bank loan. Back then, her last name was Bossingham. It was only after she married Sammy Buzaglo in January of 2004 that she started to call herself Amy. But what happened to her felony? 4 years later, in 2008, Amy surrendered for her time in federal prison and was released much later in October of 2009. And if you think I'm kidding, stop right there. I've got all the proof you need right here. Turns out, Amy met Sammy, aka Salomon, much after her previous marriage had failed. Well, I'm glad they found each other because have you ever seen a couple as compatible as this?
You can go, madam. Don't come back, madam.
Yalla, keep walking, mister. You just keep walking.
They're perfect for each other, aren't they? And guess what? She's not the only one with a nefarious past. Turns out, Sammy already had a criminal record back in his home country of Israel. That pretty much explains the reason behind his shrewd behavior with his staff.
And then they want the pizza after.
I know what it is. Okay, just move, I know.
He never trusted them, most likely because he couldn't even trust himself. What a dumpster fire of a couple. I mean, only someone as crazy as them would behave like this to their customers. But let's get back to Sammy. This man is gonna put Amy's federal charges to shame. If you thought Amy serving almost a year in prison was crazy, then wait till you hear Sammy's side of the story. According to the New York Post, Sammy had been slapped with some serious charges. He was apparently into peddling illicit substances. Who saw that coming, huh? According to reports, he even had official bans against him in France and Germany. But several other owners have had a dark past. Like, remember the owner from Burger Kitchen, Alan Saffron? That dude was the son of a legit mob boss. However, he wanted to break out of his so-called family business and create something of his own. Now, you might think that Sammy followed on the same path as Alan, right? Well, if only it was so easy to let bygones be bygones. Sammy had such an aggressive temperament, and what you saw on the show was just a small glimpse into his life. Remember how he chased away some customers?
You serve out, you motherfucker! You out!
Back then, I thought that was wild. I mean, I would be traumatized if someone behaved like that to me. But you really have no idea how far Sammy could truly go. In the clip that I just showed, Sammy resorted to using words and actions to drive away the customer. But what happened next to this customer could have sent him to jail.
It's not worth it. Hey, you're gonna go to jail for the rest of your life.
Whoa, that was crazy! But what exactly happened out there? Back in 2014, TMZ reported that Sammy tried to threaten a customer. And this time, he didn't just limit himself to his razor-sharp tongue because on this occasion, he decided to pull a weapon on the customer. Don't believe me? Take a look at this. Was that a butcher knife I just saw in Sammy's hand? Boy, this man was out here really trying to do some damage. Let's zoom in on that real quick. That sure does look like a knife to me. But once TMZ reached their doorstep, guess what the Buzaglos claimed? That it was a really big pen. Did they forget that the customer actually had video evidence? These owners had absolutely no shame lying through their teeth in broad daylight. 1 year later, in 2015, Amy's baking company was a goner. However, the couple weren't done yet. They wanted to give their business another chance, but in a better place. And maybe even with a better outcome. So they landed in a posh neighborhood called Westwood in California. It's basically a stone's throw away from the University of California's campus. Now, you already know it's gotta be fancy. And what's more, for someone who claimed bankruptcy, they were living in this swanky 5-unit condo building which was super luxurious. I'm talking 2 bedrooms and 2 bathhomes that were between 2,100 to 2,300 square feet. And that's not even the best part. The top floor penthouse was even bigger. The couple was all set on giving this posh neighborhood a taste of Amy's quote-unquote exceptionally superior cooking skills. But their battles with law and order were far from over. The couple had been secretly fighting against Sammy's deportation since 2008. Despite all of their efforts and a whole lot of money, their horrendous behavior on national television put them back on the radar of law enforcement. Now, this kind of reminds me of the moment when things got really heated at the restaurant and Amy started to threaten the customers that she would call the police. And how did Sammy react?
No, he's just calling the police.
I know, but hey, you're not touching him. Get away.
Amy was fuming, but Sammy had to actually hold her back from calling the cops. Because, well, instead of driving the customers away, the cops would probably just take them in. However, eventually, they had to give in. Sammy's deportation came through in 2018, and that's why the couple left for Israel. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. According to one Reddit user, the whole restaurant was probably just a money laundering front from Solomon Sammy Buzaglo. Dude, he hinted at mafia stuff and had an international criminal background and tried to look the role at least. Lots of sketchy stuff from people up in Happy Valley Road areas, lots of former mob and witness protection. And you know what? In hindsight, Sammy declared his truth to Chef Ramsay, but none of us paid attention to it. Remember this confrontation from the episode?
Answer my question.
It finally makes sense. Chef Ramsay was actually standing up to a real gangster. Another Reddit user had something way creepier to claim. He wrote, their restaurant failed. They moved out to Cali to open another restaurant, which also failed. Legend has it, if you go to the vacant building where their first bakery once stood, you can actually hear their delusional excuses to this day. Wow, talk about being neurotic. Amy probably left a very strong footprint behind. When the Notorious episode aired, I actually found the constant banter between the couple to be cute.
He is my soulmate, and we're in this business together.
Their relationship screams goals to me. Jokes aside, now that all the info is out there, it really puts into perspective why they acted the way they did. One thing's for sure, Sammy and Amy were in it as one. They even made an appearance on Dr. Phil's show in order to defend themselves. It's one thing that no one was buying their act, but the famous psychologist definitely wasn't.
I don't think I've ever had somebody come out and offer to whip my ass.
If you ask me, they just dug themselves into a deeper hole. After being called out by Dr. Phil for their aggressive hospitality, Amy unknowingly let us in on what they truly believed they were.
Yes, if someone comes to attack us, we're like snakes.
Yup, that's what they were, backstabbers who were filled with poison. Let's not forget that they were stealing tips from their servers. And according to the law, both federal and the state of Arizona, to withhold tips from servers is illegal. Most of their customers went off on them on social media. They made sure to give them a piece of their mind about their abusive behavior and bad food. But the Buzaglos tried to make the most of their appearance on Dr. Phil. So they accused the show and its production of doing some crazy things. What Sammy said in his defense was truly shocking.
All those people you see, they were actors. They were not customers at all.
That's just a bunch of hilarious claims from absolute frauds. And you're about to see how bad it gets. When Chef Ramsay visited the restaurant, there was one item on display which he truly enjoyed.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
And guess what? That cake wasn't even made by Amy, but rather bought from somewhere else. She then served it as if she made it. And this is how they operated on a daily basis. Amy even justified her actions by saying that reselling was the American way. And she even added that Walmart doesn't even make the products they sell. While that may be true, it doesn't justify her scummy practices. Anyway, Amy actually admitted that they resold pre-made food on their Facebook page shortly after the episode aired. And remember how the kitchen was?
Dates, labels,
Yes, everything, yeah.
sectioned off. What a pleasure.
Completely spotless, right? But here's the secret behind it. Amy apparently made her entire staff clean the whole restaurant without pay in anticipation for Chef Ramsay's arrival. When everything blew up on Facebook, she was posting regular rants and attacking people. And here's one of her posts that put her personality on display. It read, "My husband and I enjoy the finest champagne and caviar whenever we so choose. We are beautiful people and we have parties with people you can't even lick their boots. You are disgusting pig people, made from the slime of your own hatred at the world for making you disgusting people. Stay in the basement where you belong, red shitters, you are losers." So, fat shaming, classism, and horrible spelling and grammar? Well, that's Amy in a nutshell. Amy really thought she was doing God's work. In a full-blown hysterical rant, she claimed, "You are all little punks. Nothing. You're all nothing. We're laughing at you. All of you are just fools. We have God on our side, you just have your sights." Oh, and when things couldn't get any worse, the next day, they tried to cover their tracks by saying their account was hacked. What a load of bull. There were many legitimate complaints that their food was frozen. So when someone tried to call and ask them about their menu, you'll be shocked to know how Amy reacted.
If people tell you to go jump off a cliff, are you going to do that too because you read it online?
These are real, reasonable questions from a legitimate customer. But just 50 seconds into the phone call, Amy asked him to kill himself.
Then I'm going to go write it online and I hope that you jump off a cliff.
Where does she think she is? In a 2009 Modern Warfare 2 lobby? How they got into this industry in the first place is baffling to me. Turns out, these two headstrong owners couldn't even stand each other anymore. It looks like all those lovey-dovey displays were finally out the window. One of their mutual friends online posted something saying, "I'm friends with both Amy and Sammy on Facebook, even lightly chatted with them a few times, and they've officially broken up." Sam is really pushing how terrible Amy is and stuff, a Hollywood sellout is his words, and posting pics of her saying she's a fake. Through all of this, Amy hasn't mentioned anything on social media about the breakup and just posts about her desserts and catering. It's kinda bizarre what's going on, but it seems Sammy's back in Israel and Amy's in the US. So there you go, it's basically over as of now. I think they must have driven each other nuts. As of 2023, you can find Amy on Instagram where she posts instructional baking videos. Her recent one was posted with the hashtag chicks and hot chicks. She has a self-published cookbook filled with faux guru-inspired language, and nope, no one's buying it. Yep, apparently she published it through a bunch of distributors, but none of them really sold. I mean, she probably had it coming. Just in case you want to check it out, it's called Baking with Amy, Baking Up Some Magic. By magic, I think she means mayhem. I could think of a better title, Baking Bad Recipes for Disaster. That might actually be a bestseller. Her Twitter bio exposes her for who she truly is. Do you know what she wrote on it? "Make cake, not war." Coming from the bully who fired a young teenage server after stealing her tips, that's just rich. And to top it all off, she had this to say.
"She doesn't work here anymore. She's a poisonous little viper and I don't allow people to have an attitude."
If you don't allow people with an attitude in your kitchen, then you should be the first person to walk out, Amy. These morons had fired more than 90% of their staff. Basically, it was anybody who refused to take shit from them. But you know what? Getting fired from there was probably the best thing to happen in their career. This way, they would actually go and work somewhere nice and get the respect they deserve. When Chef Ramsay stood up to Sammy after he tried to justify taking tips from the servers, Amy decided to say this.
Oh my God, Sammy's going to hurt him.
Given that Chef Ramsay has a black belt in karate, I would pay real money to watch Sammy try. Chef Ramsay doesn't even have to raise his hand. His words are more than enough to knock you out.
No, don't f with me.
That must be Chef Ramsay's most savage moment on the show. This guy's a beast. But these people were really testing him. Honestly, they were beyond saving. In fact, Katie, their server, had already warned us when she said this.
"I think Chef Ramsay's gonna be wasting his time. He can't change Sammy and Amy."
Unfortunately, she was 100% correct. I mean, Sammy and Amy didn't only gaslight their customers, but they straight up sabotaged their lives.
I hope he eats it, and I just made it really spicy for him. I hope it hurts him.
This is one vindictive woman. If you remember, this is the only episode in the history of the show where Chef Ramsay gave up. Now, Chef Ramsay is a man of incredible patience. He's dealt with more than his fair share of delusional, incapable owners, and for him to walk out, that really says a lot. In fact, he was extremely low after filming this episode. Here's something interesting I found that gives us a deeper insight into the aftermath of this disastrous rescue attempt. One Reddit user said, "I'm a flight attendant and I had Gordon Ramsay on my flight to London after the filming of this episode. He looked drained and defeated. He drank a big glass of big brandy, then slept for 9 hours. After I watched the episode, I understand why." As for Amy, it was absolutely terrifying to see her say this.
We don't need his help. Maybe he knows that.
Spoken like a true narcissist. Not to mention with those cold and creepy eyes. I know you might be tempted to say that Amy is a Karen, but let me tell you, she makes most Karens look nice and sane. According to the restaurant staff, after the episode aired, Amy and Sammy went ballistic and fired every single person working there. But get this, the very next day, they called everyone back to do their shifts again. Like, you know how when your toxic ex dumps you and shows up in your DMs with a creepy "what's up" because he needs something from you? Yeah, exactly that. In the revisit episode, we got to see some bonus footage. Chef Ramsay was in the kitchen with Amy and he was like, "Where are all your male cooks at?" And Amy was like, "Oh, I don't hire guys because my kitchen is super tiny and I'm always bumping into people." But then, Sammy showed up and started spouting off about how women belong in the kitchen and all that nonsense. In all the scenes of the revisit episode, Amy's got this serial killer energy that's both frenzied and calm at the same time. Anyway, down the line, Ramsay was accused of something vile by Amy. Something that splashed all over the news. Plus, Sammy was crazy enough to accuse Chef Ramsay of doing this.
But the only thing that pissed me off is when he sexually harassed my wife in the kitchen.
Imagine accusing the famous chef of something as heinous as that. And how did Kitchen Nightmares react? They issued a statement that read, "The owners of Amy's Baking Company continue to make baseless and inflammatory comments. These ridiculous comments are completely untrue. Do you need any more proof to see how deluded this couple really are?" Okay, let's be fair, I think both Amy and Sammy definitely have some sort of deep-seated mental issue. And I genuinely hope they got the help they need. But who knows, there may be more psychotic people out there who accuse Chef Ramsay of doing some really dreadful things in the future.